It's a good thing I have my good shirt on.
It looks great. I love it. I know I should have put on something. I'm still wearing my All Saints shirt, but okay. The first question is, tell me a little bit about where you currently work and some of the positions you have held in the past.
Well, obviously, I currently work at SPSY
Mm-hmm.
in the Education and Leadership Department. So I've been doing that for like 10 years, I think. I think it's been 10 years.
At
I've been doing it a lot.
CSUMB?
Yeah, I think I've been doing it long enough where I get like 2 5-year pins. So it's probably at least 10 years. Um, so I've been doing that. And this last June, almost a year ago, I retired from Gilroy Unified School District, 44 years as a school
44 years.
Yeah.
Do you miss it?
I do. I don't miss the work and the drama. I miss the relationships with the teachers and the kids.
Yeah.
At my elementary school my last elementary school, Rod Kelly Elementary, the kids knew who I was and come up during recess and give me a hug. And I wouldn't even know who these kids were.
You were like famous.
I was like a celebrity on campus. So I missed that part.
Oh, yeah.
So I did that for 44 years. And during those 44 years, I had a variety of experiences in addition to being a school psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
I was a program specialist for vocational ed for special ed kids.
Oh.
I did that for 2 years. And then for 5 years, I was the director of special ed.
Did you like that?
It was a good learning experience. It was very time consuming. I never stopped being the administrator.
Yeah.
We had, the administrative contract was like 220 days. And so I always worked during the summer and during spring break and stuff like that. And every email I would get would be bad news, or every phone call I get would be bad news. But I did have an opportunity to do like some systems change stuff.
Oh, sorry. My mom was calling me. Sorry.
But changing systems in public education, that change takes place at a glacial rate. It just takes forever to get that done. But I don't regret being the administrator for
Sorry. You keep going. I'm still listening, but I'm going to text her and tell her I'm in a meeting really quick.
Okay. So it was a good experience. The people I work with were very competent. We had a very good attorney working with us. Mm-hmm. And it was a good experience. The only downside is that our district has a bad habit if you don't do just one thing. So I did special ed GATE. There's a study in opposites, and then health services. And so I had all three of those programs that I was the administrator for. And
that takes a lot out on a person. I can imagine.
It was a lot. The part I liked the least was the GATE stuff.
Wait, why? I feel like the GATE.
Those parents.
I knew you were going to say that. My mom says the same thing about her GATE. My mom's a teacher too. And so she says the same thing about her GATE parents. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you. But
so the GATE parents were, and I always have to, I would sometimes remind them, like, your child is gifted. You may not be gifted yourself. And the reality is they're probably not, but they had this sense of, entitlement, or they were just a very high maintenance group of parents to deal with. So we'd have these monthly advisory meetings, and they're always complaining, and you're not doing enough. It's like, and the state gives you very little money for GATE programs. We had a self-contained program at the elementary, and then after that, it was like after-school kinds of things like that. Yeah. But that was the part that drove me crazy was the GATE parents. The special ed part was difficult, but you had people who were willing to make a change and work differently. So I would send out monthly notices to the principals about, here's a list of IEPs at your school that are out of compliance, and here's a list of IEPs at your school that are in compliance. And that would go out district wide, so everybody knew what other schools were doing, and that worked pretty well. And then every month I would send out notices the individual teachers, like, your IEP is 100% compliance. Thank you very much. So like a little reward for them.
Mm-hmm.
So they would put
So
those.
if you had an IEP that wasn't compliant, the entire district could see that
That person.
that teacher.
Yes.
That's scary. Oh wow.
Well, say, yeah, it's funny you should bring that up because I got kind of spanked by the bargaining unit on that.
You're like, you're
So,
shaming these teachers.
yeah, so I took people's names off and put like the resource specialist at Gilroy High School. So their name wasn't on there, but everybody knew who it was.
Yeah.
We're kind of a small district.
Yeah.
So we finally got to a place where we had 20% out of compliance IEPs, which is a lot. And then we finally reached single digits. So that was pretty good. And then, yeah, then I would meet with staff and stuff and go over how to do IEP meetings and things like that.
Yeah. Yikes. But I mean, that's a kind of a good way to keep people in line, you know. Nobody wants to be put on, you know.
Well, now with the electronic IEP programs, I mean, your administrator can check your compliance rate in a heartbeat. So there's some upside to that IEP programs. Let's see. So I did that, taught at community college. I started at San Jose City College and then worked at Gavilan Community College. And so that's something you should do is like when you're getting close to, and I mentioned this before, you should get your community college credential.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun. It's interesting to teach. I taught at night, so I got like an older students, a little more mature. I don't know if I could tolerate undergraduates so much. I don't know if I have the patience for that.
Yeah.
But having a community college credential is a nice thing to do, and they pay pretty well.
So you did that before you were at CSUMB?
Yeah, I did that for years. I think that's part of what got me a job at CSUMB because I knew how to teach. You know.
Yeah.
So the community college credential is a good thing to get. I think you just send in like your PPS credential, $2 in a box top to CTC, and they'll send it to you by return mail. So it's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I feel like after I get my degree with school psychology, I still want to go and get my credential too, just in case.
Which credential?
My teaching credential.
Oh,
yeah. Because I feel like, I don't know, in time when maybe I don't want to be a school psychologist anymore, at least I'll also have that too. And I could sub or.
Well, that's always a good idea, but I always felt that, you know, there was one time in my 44 years where they were so desperate for subs. I taught in the 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And that totally cured me of any desire to be in the classroom. There was just no way. There'd be too many dead kids. I mean, it was just, so I never liked the idea of being tied to a classroom. I had to be there at a certain time and I had to stay the whole day. I mean, as being a school psychologist, you had some flexibility with your schedule. But yeah, so that classroom stuff is just, I don't have the patience. So I know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and teaching a bunch of 5th graders is not my
not it.
So that's where I am right now.
I hadn't realized you had been at CSUMB so long. Well, I guess I've only been here for 1 semester, so I guess I wouldn't know that, but that's a long time.
My wife is there too. She teaches there as well.
Oh, really? What does she teach?
She used to be in education and leadership. She was their coordinator for special ed. Her background is special ed, and then she made the leap over to liberal studies.
Oh, cool. So that's teaching teachers?
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's exactly the right person for that because she's had experience as a general education teacher and a special ed teacher. So
yeah, she gets the best of both worlds then. Yeah. I had a lot of friends in college who were in liberal studies, like almost all of them. And then I did psychology, but it was cool like being around people that, you know, also want to be educators because it's kind of a specific mindset, I guess.
It's a different lifestyle. When we, people in education talk about spring semester and fall semester, and people don't know that, and elementary teachers talk about before recess and after recess.
I know, it's like a lingo,
Yeah,
educational lingo. I know.
real adults don't talk that way.
I know, and I've never really realized that because my mom is a teacher, so I feel like it took until I was like, people who were like business majors for me to realize like real adults don't talk like that. But I was like, never mind. I'm going back to I like the kiddie one. I like talking like a kid. That's better. Okay. The next question is, in what ways do you think that your leadership skills affect the way you support students, teachers, families, and schools?
Well, I do things based on what's worked for me. I know that there is the buzzword to include all the stakeholders and make sure everybody has a voice. And I think there's some value to that. But sometimes people have too much of a voice and they slow down the whole decision-making process. But I like to include people so they have a sense that I was included in this decision. And so, I kind of have to go along with it.
Mhm.
So being inclusive, keeping people informed. When I was coordinator, I would keep people informed through like inter-district memos and stuff. I mean, if I needed to have a meeting, I would have a meeting, but if I could achieve something through email, then I would do it that way as well.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with, teachers and families in schools. I think you need to give people information, but you don't need to overload them with information because then they won't get the information that you want.
Yeah.
So it's like at IEP meetings where you go over test results ad nauseum and you can see the parents' eyes glazing over because they really don't understand what the hell we're talking about. And all they want to know is, are you going to help my kid?
What's going to happen? Yeah.
And it's the same thing when you have meetings with people at schools and like with families and stuff. You have an agenda and you follow that agenda and you try to stay with it because you want to honor people's time. Because if they're at your meeting, they're not at something else that they might actually want to prefer to do.
Yeah.
So I like to include people, share their thoughts. But there are times when in the decision-making process that people just want you to decide something. It's like just make a decision so we can move on. So sometimes you have to know your audience. Being inclusive works well with people in education, but like in the business world, it's like make a decision so we can move on. So you kind of have to know your audience a little bit.
Yeah.
But keeping people informed so they know, so they're not surprised by something. I think
transparency.
Yeah. But that, in the schools, if I had a difficult parent, I would let the principal know that, I had a parent who was complaining, so they might be reaching out to complain or so. So if you give people a warning about what's coming, it's always really helpful. So that links to the next one.
Oh yeah, the next question. I know. What are the practices that you utilize that can be identified as displaying leadership? Yeah.
So it's like what we talked about, being inclusive. I mean, teaching at the university, online classes and stuff, and even your seminar, that's not a leadership kind of thing. I'm not always telling you guys what to do. I'm just including you in that conversation. So that's not so much of a leadership thing. But
I think it is though, because we look to you to, guide us in the right direction, especially when it comes, like, I feel like the reading center is such a, it took a while for us to kind of get used to like the systems that the reading center has used. And I think it was been helpful, like having a fresh set of eyes looking at it and kind of being like, this doesn't have to always be some huge conversation about why we're doing this and why we're doing that. Like, this is just what works and this is what doesn't. Which I think was nice when you came in.
Well, I kind of know what you guys are going to be facing. So if you have a heads up about what are some things you should know once you get into schools, I think the experience at the Reading Center is very valuable because it gives you a little bit of credibility with teachers, but there are other things that you'll need to know as well in addition to that. So.
Yeah, I know. It'll be interesting next year. I hope that if the Reading Center ever opens up, just to see how they do it in person, because, like we know how to do everything through a computer now. Yeah. So
So when we go face to face, I mean, you'll see parents in the waiting room and kids running around, and there's a whole different energy to it.
Yeah.
You get you get caught up in that kind of dynamic and that energy. I know when I used to have classes at the reading center, and probably won't for some time because it's too small in terms of ventilation and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But I would be, working all day and then drive to university. And once I got on campus, I could feel that energy kind of build up. I always get amped up about that.
Like
And that,
good or bad energy?
no, it was good energy. Like I loved that face to face instruction. It's just a way for me to practice my stand up comedy. I know that all during the time when I was in the district, all those leadership opportunities that presented themselves. The only mistake that I made with that was that the district would say, well, can you do this? Can you run the autism strand or have meetings with these folks, year round? And I always said yes. But reflecting back on that, I should have said yes. And what will you take off my plate? It's like,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to do that. So are you does that mean I'm going to have one less school I have to deal with, or help me understand that? No, that didn't work out that way.
I know, but I think that's a fair question because I kind of do the same thing where I have a tendency to want to say yes to everything. And, I don't, taking on too much, makes it really hard to be good at everything. Yeah. And like biting off more than you can chew is something I have always kind of had a hard time with, just because.
And then you work weekends and Sundays, and then you get a little annoyed with that because, I still have laundry to do. I got a lawn to mow.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I've been next year, I'm not going to be working as much as I am right now because I feel like this has been a really hard and like I don't feel like I have had a moment to myself where I haven't been like, okay, I have always in my brain, I have something like a list of what things that I need to get done. And I would like to have time to just be able to sit and read a book or take a nap, maybe.
No, it's funny you should say that. When I was the director of special ed, I tried to have Wednesday mornings be more like time for thinking and time for reading, but it never quite worked out that way. There was always something going on.
Yeah, I know. I know. I think it's really, as becoming an adult has taught me that you actually have to put effort into making time for yourself, or else it just won't happen. Yeah. It doesn't just when you're in high school, it kind of those gaps just kind of fall into place. And when you're in your undergraduate programs, they kind of, the free time kind of just makes itself known. But as you get older,
you have to build
really
in
diminishes.
Where did you get your undergraduate degree?
I went to Long Beach State.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I know exactly Fresno. Where that is.
Oh, really? Yeah, I loved Long Beach. I am from Fresno, so I wanted to kind of get out of that area, and then I went to Long Beach, and then I just found that Southern California, it's too sunny for me. I don't like it. I was I miss having I don't know, rain boots and that kind of weather.
Funny you should say that. My wife's family is from Oceanside, which is
my roommate is from Oceanside. Yeah.
So we go down there all the time, and if I had to choose, I would choose there to be two Californias, Northern California and Southern California, because there really is a difference in terms of how people in Southern California view the world.
They don't. I think it's Southern California is a whole type of different breed of person. I've never met, it's just so blaring. This is, I don't know, I don't think mean, but it's just so blaringly obvious when somebody's from Southern California. You can just tell the moment you meet them, because it's they've got this kind of demeanor, and they're also very, very proud to be from Southern California, which is super funny. And I'm from the Valley. I don't know, super tiny, there's cows.
There should be two Californias. So I think right south of Santa Barbara is where they should put the borderline. You should have to have a passport in order to go either way. It's just It's different.
I liked it. It was just really different, I think, from what I was used to. And it was good. I needed to see more than what just Fresno is like a really conservative kind of like, you know, I don't know, not boring. It's just, there's not, you know, people are very set in their ways there. And I really need to get out and kind of.
You're right. It's boring.
It is
And so,
boring. I know. I like try to not say that, but.
From Fresno to Long Beach, it's like you just entered warp speed. I mean, Long Beach is, there's so much to do.
So much happening. So
Yeah.
much is happening. And it's so close to LA and it's not that far from San Diego. It's like, I was really happy there. But it was really good for college. And then I got a little bit older and I realized I didn't necessarily want to be, I don't know, going out as much as I was and going and spending all of my time at the beach and kind of like, I needed to get out of there so I could kind of get my head on straight. Get my head on, be an adult and get my head on straight. So, okay. And then the last question, I think kind of you already, how do you utilize your leadership skills across the various roles you have in current positions? This is kind of, are you able to use those leadership roles, like the same leadership roles for all the positions?
No.
I mean, the same leadership skills in the different roles you've had?
Well, I use them in the classroom, but in the college, I'm just one of the worker bees. I mean, I go to the staff meetings once a month, and I participate in that. But I'm non-tenure track, so people, they listen to what I have to add, but I don't really. I mean, I could be not teaching, next fall. I mean, part-time faculty, they just go semester to semester. So
really, that's scary.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. So
how long do you think you're going to teach for?
I don't know.
Like, do you have any, like, don't you want to retire?
Well, I already retired from the district, so that gives me a lot of time to work at the university. I probably would always do something. I just can't see myself
ever not doing anything.
I mean, if I didn't have the CSUMB, I'd probably be doing some private work, which was, which might be very lucrative because I would bill out like $250 an hour. But no, I love the teaching part. I really like it. I enjoy it, and I think I have some experiences to add. And,
well, it's good. After 44 years, you still what you're good at, right? That's nice.
School psychology as a field has changed. I mean, I've seen it change. I mean, when I first started, it was much more clinical in orientation, and now it's much more assessment in orientation.
Yeah. So did you ever feel like you were just only doing assessments? I know that's a concern we have, a lot of us in the, trying to make time for things other than assessments. But also, don't you think that it kind of depends on the district that you work for?
There is probably very few districts who won't have you spend most of your time on assessments.
But when do you get to talk to the kids?
It's one of those things where you would have to make time.
Yeah.
It's like you would have to like give up your lunch or give up your recess or whatever in order to have some interaction with kids. I mean, there was a time, one year, I had just one school. Prior to that, because we had couple of interns that were working to death. So I was able to be at one school 5 days a week. At that school, I was able to run groups and stuff like that. But more often than not, I had like 3 or 4 schools. And so there wasn't the time in the day to meet with kids informally, which is unfortunate because we know that just a little bit of attention from adults, positive attention from adults, can go a long way in helping kids do better at school. And that was part of a mental health grant that I ran for 12 years. We had what we call the early mental health initiative, where we would take moderate risk kids who were at risk for acting out behaviors and work with them individually. So we would hire these people to play with them once a week. So they would build a relationship in that kind of play therapy format. And we saw a lot of advantage to that because kids they do better in school. Their attendance would become much more regular. So that mental health piece is something that school psychology has kind of gotten away from. But what you're seeing right now, just yesterday, the state association and the association for school counselors and therapists, they put together like a position statement saying that mental health needs for kids in schools have become more important now than ever.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see a lot of kids coming back from the pandemic with a lot of baggage, a lot of baggage. So
And
maybe the field will change again. We'll become a lot less assessment oriented and go back to that clinical piece.
But don't you think that like the kids that you were like, didn't you build relationships with the kids that you were like writing IEPs for and the ones that you were having to do meetings with? Like that kind of relationship still, like you still had to make time to see those kids when you weren't doing assessments?
No, only if it was part of their IEP. I mean, I would see kids who we did like IEPs on, and they would come and drop in my office and chit chat and stuff during recess. But in terms of seeing kids on a formal basis, that would have to be part of their IEP.
To like come and see you and meet with you. Okay, I get it. Yeah, I know that's something that I've been like, I knew going into this, I just, I'm hoping that eventually I'll be able to kind of like, I don't know, there's this, okay. At the school where I was working before this school, there was 2 school psychologists, and one of the school psychologists, well, okay, it was because it was a middle school and a high school together. Like the campus was 7 through 12. So the middle school psychologist always did, like he did a majority of the assessments. And then the high school psychologist did a lot of the mental health aspects. So I feel like it varies from like, I don't know.
District to district, it was whatever the district seems important, but you're going to have to, the assessment piece is never going to go away.
No, yeah, and I don't think it should. Like, I understand. Like, I just would like to have more interaction with the kids than I feel like in some districts you might not get. So,
right, and that's up to the district. I mean, you could maybe talk to your, it's a conversation you would have with the district. I mean, their responsibility is to get those assessments done in 60 days. So if you have time in your day to like see groups informally or see kids individually as part of the IEP, then you can do that. But their drop dead compliance is that 60 days. I mean, maybe a better way to have a broader effect, and we talked about this I think in seminars, to do staff development.
Yeah.
So be thinking about how you could do like a 30-minute dog and pony show on functions of behavior or reinforcement, or how to deal with ADD kids in the classroom, where teachers can bring their lunch into your PowerPoint presentation and learn some things and then go back to the classroom.
Yeah.
I think you'd hit a broader audience. I think intervening at the teacher level, you get a bigger bang for your buck because it's a broader audience and they'll take that back to the classroom. I mean, you can save, one kid at a time, or you could save an entire school through doing some kind of staff development.
Yeah. Which makes more sense anyway. I know. And then sometimes I think like, oh, like I want to be a school psychologist, but then I'm like, should I have done school counseling? But then I'm like, no, because I don't necessarily have that like care or like passion about like helping kids find.
Well, school counseling is part of your credential. You can do school counseling.
So if I wanted to be a school counselor, I could just.
You wouldn't. I don't. Your internship year would be in school counseling. And if you honestly think the school counselors do counseling, it's just no.
That's what my mom said too. And I don't think it's something that I really necessarily like. I don't want to like help kids make their school schedules. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something I'm interested in at all. So, yeah.
I know in some districts, they don't call them school counselors anymore. They're called academic coordinators, because what they do
at my last school, they were academic coordinators.
Yeah, because they don't do counseling in the sense that we know what counseling is. They just check schedules and graduation requirements. And If a
What
kid really
job does the counseling? What is that job title? Like
mental health therapist.
mental health therapist, but not all schools have that. No
No,
schools have that.
no. It's becoming more and more prevalent because it's becoming part of kids' IEPs. But that therapy part does not come from the school psychologist. It usually comes from some MFCC that the district hires.
Yeah.
And so a lot of ED programs will have a school counselor attached to them, a mental health therapist. And those are interesting jobs. I mean, it's kind of the same thing all day. At least in the role of school psychologist, you have a variety of things. I mean,
Right.
you'll have an idea of what you want to get done that day, and then that can all go out the window as soon as you get on campus because somebody died or there's a drive-by shooting. So being able to be adaptable and flexible is what they told me the first day of my internship year. Like, yeah, you got an appointment book and it's really nice, but you need to be adaptable and flexible because this is public school.
Yeah.
We're never really sure what's going to walk through that door.
Seriously, I know. I think it's just crazy that, like, I work at a private school right now and there is no school psychologist. There's nobody there for when something like that would happen. Like, I don't even know what the protocol would be. Like, I think they would just send everybody home. Like, they would just be like, okay, just kidding today, go home. Like, I don't know what would happen. We don't even have a nurse. Like, if a kid gets hurt, we literally just call the mom and be like, can you come get your kid? They might have broken their arm, but we don't know. It's really, really strange.
And maybe they might want to rethink that a little bit because
I think so.
There's a lot of damage you can prevent with some preventative mental health services. I mean, if something traumatic happened at school, those kids are going to go home to parents who have even less of an idea how to deal with it.
Exactly.
So, like responding to trauma and stuff like we covered in seminar would be something good for the teachers to know. But
it's a very, like, I mean, I went to public school and I worked in public school all through college and then after, and it's a whole different world. This is like my first year in a private school and I've never, like, there are things that I'm like the woman, my coworker, who didn't have her kids vaccinated.
Right.
Because she worked there, her kids still went to the school. Like, they just like overlooked that. And I was like, but she doesn't work there anymore because they couldn't with the COVID stuff,
And sometimes people hide in private schools.
Yeah. I was like, what?
You have a kid who might be on the spectrum and you put them in a private school and you see that all the time.
But here's another thing. I don't even know what they do with kids that need to be in special education because there's not like a special education class. And I think if they, like, for example, one of my preschoolers has an older brother who is autistic and he went to the school and then the school told them that they couldn't really support him because he was too severe, which I disagree. So they sent him to a different private school called Chartwell.
Oh, I know Chartwell.
Yeah, because they were like, we don't have the services here to support him. But I'm like, you're technically supposed to have those services.
No, not as a private school.
You're not?
No.
Like, they can turn kids away that are special needs?
Yes. It's a private school.
That's insane to me. I genuinely don't understand that. Like, how are they, like, I feel like that should be illegal, or I thought it was illegal. Like, I genuinely was like flabbergasted. And that mom was just like, oh, it's fine. Like, I was like, no, it's not fine. Like, but.
So here's the really the law in terms of private school. The districts have a responsibility to find special ed kids. And if they exist in private school, the parent can, so your private school parent who the kid was on the spectrum, that private school parent could call up her home district, wherever that was, Carmel Unified, I guess, and say, I have a kid, I think he's on the spectrum, I'd like to have an assessment done. The public school would be obligated to do that assessment.
Even though he doesn't attend their school.
Correct. And so they
And
would
then,
do the assessment. They would have an IEP meeting and they would say, yeah, your kid's on the spectrum, he needs speech, OT, whatever, swimming with the dolphin, whatever the team decides that he needs. And they would say, we can offer that in public school.
if you choose, if you choose not to do it,
then that's their choice. You know, it's like I mentioned earlier, parents have the right to be wrong. I mean, so all we have to do in the public schools is make an offer. Like, we're offering you speech, OT, resource, whatever. You can either choose that or not choose that.
And there's no studies at all that show that a private school that specializes in special education is any more beneficial than a regular public school. Do you think? What's your take?
You could probably do your dissertation on that. I think in private school, you get a different kind of teacher because the salaries tend to be not so great.
At a private school?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about where you are, but
no, you're right. They're not good. It's like, a lot of teachers leave because they're not good. They don't think they're getting paid enough. Yeah. But keep going.
But private schools, if you have a kid with an IEP, I think what we're seeing, like the only private school I'm aware of, St. Mary's here in Gilroy, and they have their own special ed teacher. And so they realize that they're going to have special needs kids, so they already have their own special ed teacher. So that was,
even though they don't have to have one.
Correct. They don't have to have it.
So they were like, let me just take on. They were like willing to take on that.
Yeah, and that's a good idea.
I agree. I know. I just don't like the Chartwell is specifically for special needs kids. So I just didn't like it is what I was wondering. I'm just curious if my student's brother, is he getting a better education there, or would he be, fine in public school, like getting the same services and they wouldn't have to pay for it? Well, I mean, through taxes, but I know.
Let me help you understand that we in Gilroy Unified, we would bus kids to Chartwell, bus them.
Because it's better?
No, because we lost in due process. We couldn't show that we had a better or equivalent program. And so parents took us to court and we lost. And so we would have kids go to Chartwell periodically. It'd be horrifically expensive. And the parents did not have to pay.
Because they were saying that the services you guys had were not sufficient.
Right. So your private school parent could request the district to do an assessment. The district would offer them an IEP and the parent could accept that or not accept that. And really almost say, I think Chartwell has a better program and I'm going to take you to court in order to prove that. Chartwell's, they have a good program, but it's expensive.
It's very expensive. I don't know how these families, they just are very wealthy. Like most of my families have like siblings too. And so and the expense goes up by grade. So you start off, I'm pretty sure right now it's like $15,000 a year to have your kid be a preschooler. And then it goes up $3,000 each grade. So like first grade is $18,000 a year. Yeah. And then they all,
That's more than college.
No, it is. It's literally more than college. And these parents have multiple kids at the school. So like I have one child who has 4 older siblings that all go to the school.
Man.
And supposedly, I mean, I think the education that they're getting is great, but like, I don't think that Carmel Unified is significantly. Yeah. Like, it's crazy to me, but $15,000 to send your kid to preschool.
Wow.
I know. And I have a set of triplets in my class. What is that math? $45,000 to send all three of their preschoolers.
Are they identical? Yeah, I guess they would be identical.
Well, there's two that are identical, and then they have a brother. So, yeah, it's like
at my last elementary school, Rod Kelly Elementary School, we were famous for having the school with the most multiple births.
Really?
Yes.
That is so funny.
It's like there's something in the air there. I told you this earlier, we had a mother who had quadruplets.
How is that? That's not like a natural. I thought that those kinds of births had to be like because you do some sort of like I don't know anything.
Yeah, well, and we would
quadruplets, 4 kids.
Yeah, we would be in the office in the morning, see her drop her quadruplets off, and she'd be so happy.
She's like, I need them out.
Yeah. Between 8 and 2:30, she got to take care of whatever it is that she needed to take care of.
Yeah, there's 2 identical girls, and then the third one is a boy, and they are so like different. Well, the two girls are pretty similar, but the third one, the boy, is so different. Like they fight with each other more than they fight with the rest of the class. Like they're so, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this poor mom is probably so tired. Like I can't even imagine, but that's I guess the way the cookie crumbles. But okay, I'll let you have the rest of your Friday. Thank you for answering my questions and for talking with me. I know I had like 10 other ones that weren't really related to the interview, but I just wanted to.
I think just overall looking back on 44 years, I would do the same thing. I wouldn't be in the classroom. I thought I was going to be a journalist, but that got sidetracked. And so I chose school psychology. Actually, I wanted to be a clinical psychologist because I thought that was romantic. And then I realized, no, nobody pays their therapy bills. I don't want to be poor.
No.
And so working in schools is always, I found a lot of reinforcement there. It was fun. It was different. There are times when it'd be like extremely frustrating. And that's where the whole idea of system change comes in, that you could be an agent to change that system, but it just takes forever. Forever. I mean, when you look at the long-term efficacy of PBIS, we've had that data for like 25 years, and it's just now getting traction in California.
Yeah.
So, and the only way you're going to change that is when you become state superintendent. So that might be a possibility for you. Is that your mom again?
She wants to talk to me so bad. Yes, because we got different COVID. She's freaking out. I told her to stop texting me. But she got the Moderna and I got the Pfizer. So she's like wanting to compare and see if I'm having like side effects or anything. I'm like, I just got it. Like, give me 30 an hour, maybe more. I don't know. She
doesn't understand the age difference, how you respond to.
No, well, she genuinely, I've said that. I said, Mom, you're like literally 55. I'm 24. Yeah. It's gonna hit you probably more. And she's like swears it's because the Moderna has more side effects. But then she also says that the Pfizer one, like, that it hurts more. Like she really thinks that she knows, but she does. She's like a COVID scientist. I don't know. But yeah. Okay, I will let you have your weekend. Sorry.
All right, see you, Sarah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.